I changed a lot about myself when I was getting to know Josh. I tried to become that good Christian girl for him. But somewhere in my chasing Josh, God began to pursue me. And I learned things about him that I never knew before because of that. He wasn't just a distant being looking down on me like Santa, moving my name back and forth on a good or bad list. But he was a personal God. A God that wanted to know me. A God that loved me so much. And a God that wanted to be the most important thing in my life. But I also learned that there was something keeping me from God. Something separating us. A thing the Bible calls sin. And one way to look at sin is putting something above God. And that's exactly what I was doing with Josh. And the penalty for that is death. That's crazy, right? I like this guy and the penalty is death?
That's terrible.
I know, but sin is so much deeper than that. Liking a guy alone is not a sin. But the real issue is where my heart was. Josh was just a symptom of a bigger problem. And like Alicia thought her biggest problem was spending too much time in the mirror and realized that the big issue was self-centeredness, I realized that my big issue was that I wanted to be God in my life. I wanted to be in control. And Josh was just a piece of that perfect life puzzle. And because God is so good and perfect, he hates sin. And that's why the penalty is death. And not just a physical death, but a spiritual death, an eternal separation from God. But even though God hates sin, he loves us so much more. His love is great. So great that he sent his son, his only son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross, to pay the penalty for our sin, the penalty that I deserved. And not only that, but he rose again to conquer death for us. So there I was. Josh wasn't in my life anymore, and I had to decide, was I going to throw God out with the Josh thing, or was I going to make God the most important thing in my life? And I decided that even though Josh wasn't worth changing myself for, God was. Because he had shown me that he would never let me down the way that other people in my life had. And so I decided to start a relationship with him. And I prayed to him, and I said, I'm sorry for sinning against you and for putting things above you. And I asked him to forgive me. And I said, thanks. Thanks for giving your son Jesus Christ for my sin. Thanks for loving me that much. And I asked him to come into my life and take the place that he deserves. And if that's something that you want, if you want God to be the most important thing in your life, then I just want to ask you to pray with me right now. God, I just want to thank you for loving me and for coming after me. And God, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for putting things above you and for sinning against you. And God, I just want to ask you to forgive me. And God, I want to thank you for giving your son, Jesus Christ, to pay the penalty for my sin. And God, I want to ask you to come into my life and take the place that you deserve. Be God in my life. Amen. We just want to give you this next song to talk to God.